Okay, and welcome everybody to this webinar. If you're happy to have you're not sat in your pants and you can have your video on, it's nice to see people's faces. Those that are obviously watching this live, I have muted everyone, but that's not to say people aren't allowed to talk. It's just to make so that the sound and the quality and everything is obviously top notch. We will leave time for questions and things at the end. We want to have interaction, so don't feel like you can't speak up. The chat box is a great place if you're thinking of things as we go along to use, but we will have some time at the end for you to answer any questions, and you could unmute yourself at that point, and we can have it like that towards the end. But just whilst we give a couple of minutes for people to join, why don't you say hello in the chat box? Let us know where in the world, because people come from all over the world. Let us know where in the world you're signing in from, and whether this is the first time you've interacted with Rooted Live, or whether you've been to an event, or maybe you've done one of the other free webinars we've done. Just gives a bit of a flavour where you're coming from. Berkshire. I'm logging in from Rosgadven in North Wales. Boyo, diolch. Nastar is good night. And I'm learning much. Portugal.
Hey.
You can see here fine.
Northeast Scotland.
First event.
Tunbridge
Second
Wells.
webinar.
Oh, you've been on the Farm Club, Amanda.
Oh, yes, Amanda.
Yes. In Cheshire. Scottish Highlands again.
We've just come back from Scotland.
Yeah, Worcestershire. I grew up in Worcestershire. Troon, Scotland again. Ireland. Don't mention the rugby.
No. Not Wales either. No. Right. Okay. Anyone else that wants to, just to stay connected and engage in the chat box, and then we'll get started. And by no means death by PowerPoint, which is obviously this is not about at all, and it's not even PowerPoint. Look, but we've just got a couple of things to set the scene, and just to show you that it's not going to be. Right, there we go. Look, picture. It's not all text and writing. That's right. Welcome to tonight's webinar, the gut-breath connection. So we have Dr. Sally Bell with us as part of Rooted Live, and myself, David Jackson, or a lot of people will call my nickname Jacko. We need a nickname for you, Sally. I just call her Dr. Bell. Anyway, I actually always refer to Sally as Dr. Sally Bell. I always use your full. I need to learn your minute. Anyway, I'm going off topic. We are going to be talking predominantly from Sally talking about the gut. I am going to be, well, not only just talking, we're going to be doing some stuff, but I'm going to be talking about the breath, and we're coming together to discuss and show you and hopefully give you some tips and some tools and some things that you can do to go away with better understanding, and also then a better knowing of how to integrate maybe some of the breath training that I teach that will help us with things like our gut health. And the one thing to say at the start is that the place where the gut that Sally's going to really lead on, and the breath that I'm going to lead on in this, really come together. That middle portion is really around stress and the vagus nerve. And when we're talking about the nervous system, we will both be discussing those two things with you. So, Sally, would you like to just give a quick whistle-stop tour of your life to date?
Yeah, thank you, Jacko. It's a real joy to be with everyone today. I've had a really rotten day, so it's just nice to be with some lovely faces and human beings and have some adult chat. So yes, I'm Dr. Sally Bell, and I've been a medic trained in general practice for nearly 25 years now. About halfway through my career, got really tired of feeling like a pharmaceutical vending machine, and I got into root cause medicine and specialized in lifestyle medicine, nutrition, real interest in the gut throughout that, and an interest in women's health too, and have a massive passion of how we connect to nature and the soil, and particularly around how our food is produced too. So, and yes, at Rooted Life, I've known David now for over 10 years, and I did have a private clinic for many years, and David worked with many of my clients, and we were so surprised when we started working together.
I wasn't surprised. I knew it.
Well, I was
No.
seeing the impact on gut health when we started doing breath work. Often we'd invite people in who were maybe struggling with anxiety or what have you, but then we started to realize, and then we started to learn the science and everything behind it over the years, and just this beautiful marriage of, you know, an incredible therapy to really help improve our gut function, improve our whole health, that has no side effects. So that's where this is born out of, really. These webinars is a real mutual respect around the knowledge that we both have, but also just our love to see people enjoy their life and improve their symptoms around gut health. So yes, that's why we're doing this tonight, and hoping that you will go away with some stuff that will be really practical, and just maybe some light bulb moments around the importance of the gut and how you can look after that.
Yeah, thank you, Sally. And yeah, pleasure to be here with you all, as well as obviously Sally. We've, like Sally said, we've really enjoyed working together. And equally, the Rooted Life team is, there's also Catherine, my wife, who is trained in the breathwork with the Oxygen Advantage, like myself, and also a physiologist. We've recently just come back from a gut health retreat, so this is all like firm in my mind, as well as my microbiome apparently will have improved, because it only takes a certain number of, is it just 3 days or 2 days for it to change. That was with Dr. Lucy Williamson, who is a friend of Rooted Life. She's one of our family of experts that we plug in with. So there is a number of us involved trying to help make simple as possible, simple things that really do have quite a big impact on our health and our well-being, and ultimately our happiness. So very quickly on me, I don't have a doctor title in front of my name. I'm just a guy with a ponytail that used to play rugby, that had a brain injury that led me into breathing, which then helped me with my brain's recovery, but equally changed the course of my, I'd say, life. Like certainly my coaching life. I was coaching strength and conditioning, where it's all about strength and all the big stuff and the hard stuff, and all the conditioning was like working people hard, and understanding that actually there's this fundamental underlying thing behind everything else that goes on, whether it's a sporting endeavor or whether it's like a just life endeavor, whether it's managing stress, whether it's digestion and gut health, like we're going to be talking about. And that is the breath that is happening in the background all the time. Like anything, we can do it well, we can do it less well, or I talk about efficiency often when we talk about the breath. But one thing with the breath is it's always going to be there until we find our last one. So it's a link between the conscious and the subconscious. There's some nice things we're going to lead our way into that might be a little bit of a surprise for me by the time we get to the end. But we'll see how you go. With that, on terms of intros, I am. I guess I always say it's like my teachings with the Oxygen Advantage. Some people use a chat box. Who's come across the Oxygen Advantage? It's Patrick McKeown's work. It's also a book, as well as all the training that we do. Or James Nestor references the Oxygen Advantage a fair few bits. James Nestor, some of you might have read his book Breath. So some work people good, so you know what the deal is. So I'm one of the master instructors with the Oxygen Advantage and one of the mentors. So I run the mentorship program for the coaches and certify the coaches. That's just to give you some confidence that potentially the guy with the ponytail might know what he's talking about, hopefully. Now, before Sally draws us beautifully into introducing the gut and where we're going to start with that, we will be talking about how stress impacts the gut and the gut microbiome, and how breathing can then help with that. But you might get stressed out by hearing about how much stress can affect the gut microbiome. So before anything changes and you're nice and relaxed from these intros, we're just going to do a very simple little check-in, or it can be used as a little bit of an assessment on your breathing before we do anything else. I've got my phone, not because I'm WhatsApping my mum, because I've got my stopwatch out, and I'm going to time 30 seconds. And you're going to simply, however you're sat now, just count your breathing. You're going to observe your breathing. You're not, importantly, supposed to try and slow it down. Nothing like that. We're trying to see what is the auto breathing rate like for you currently before we explain anything, before we teach you anything. And then we'll compare it at the end. Okay. If you put one hand on your upper chest and one hand, not on your belly, because you'll learn that your lungs and your diaphragm isn't in your belly. So just below your sternum. And I want you to use your hands to give you a little bit of feedback as we go through this. Now, everyone always asks, but everyone's muted so they can't, so I'll answer it for you. In and out is one breath. Sometimes people go, is in one and out one? In and out is one breath cycle. You're going to count how many breaths you take. And on autopilot, don't lose count. You're going to write them in the chat box afterwards. Okay? So 3, 2, 1, go. So in and out is one. Just let it happen. Don't control it. Don't fight. Just observe it. Be the observer of your breathing. Notice, where's the air coming in and out of? Is it your nose or mouth? Notice which hand is moving, and maybe the direction and size of the movement. Maybe the sound of your breath. And stop. Okay, take that number. The mathematicians amongst us, multiply it by 2. Anyone else, you can just double it. And then that's going to give you your respiratory rate. That's my first guide. Respiratory rate for a minute. Okay, and then you can whack that number in there. Yeah, and we're going to have a huge range from like something really low, like there's 7 for someone, then up to like 18 or something, and everything in between. Okay, not changing your breath is like thinking of the pink elephant. Yes, it's difficult. As soon as you think about your breathing and count it, you automatically slow it down. There's a research a study done last year, I think it was, that said you reduce it by about 20%. And that's actually a good thing, because a calmer breathing rate is a calmer heart rate, which I'll go into explain, and that's going to help us with our stress management. Okay, but you've got a starting point for you there. Okay, and I asked you a few things. So the rate was one, but like the direction of the movement, how big the movement was, the hands were. You just remember those sensations to compare them at the end. Okay, and then Sally is going to, when we're talking about the gut-breath connection, it's best to start with the gut, I would say, Sally. I'll leave this for a little bit and then I'll bring it off.
Brilliant, brilliant. So as I said, I've been a doctor for nearly 25 years, and actually with my training, nearly 30. And certainly when I trained in the 90s, the gut really was just about digestion. We didn't really think anything of it. And digestion was really broken down just into our macros, so fats and proteins and sugars, carbohydrates, and maybe some mention to our micros. And there was no other thought to it really. And it's interesting that you've put a photo there of our intestines, but actually when we're talking about the gut, we're talking about everything from our mouth all the way to our anus. And really our gut...
Say anus.
Say anus, yeah. Our gut really...
I couldn't have a picture of that on here, could I?
Just let me just speak. So, and really the gut is the inside of our gut is on the outside of us. You know, if you imagine a donut with a hole in the middle, you know, that's what it's like. It is a complete tube from one end to the other. It really is on the outside of us, really. And anyway, it was actually Hippocrates, who was the father of modern medicine 2000 years ago, who made an observation that all disease started in the gut. And it wasn't until, over 2,000 years later, do we truly understand the utter genius of what he had observed. And over particularly the last decade, I can remember sort of 2011, 2012, starting to see all of these studies coming out. Do we begin to understand that the gut is so much more than digestion? It's so much more than just, getting the goodness out of our food and getting energy and getting nutrition into our bodies. And over the last decade, we've started to understand that actually it houses up to 70% of our immune cells. So that ability to stay virus-free, to stay cancer-free, to moderate our response to foods and allergies, the majority of that is actually housed in the lining of the gut. And we've also started to understand that it's a massive regulator with our mood. You may have heard of something called your gut-brain axis. And certainly I remember being in the 90s and being a GP trainee and being told that our depression and our anxiety was an imbalance of hormones within our brain. And yet it was a surprise to me over the last decade to realize that there isn't a study in the world that proves that. It's a theory that gives permission to try these drugs that cross our blood-brain barrier, where now we're starting to understand that sort of some people say up to 95% of our happy hormones are actually made in our gut, as well as things like our dopamine and a lot of these mood regulating hormones. We are starting to understand that even our gut has an impact on our appetite and our hunger and whether we should be eating more. We are starting to understand that actually our gut can regulate whether we gain weight or whether we lose weight or whether we struggle with obesity. We're starting to understand that it's really important around regulating our hormones, particularly as women. And there's particular mechanisms that sit under a lot of chronic diseases that are really crippling us as a nation, everything from our obesity through to our heart disease and diabetes and mood disorders. We're starting to understand that there's this thing called inflammation that's possibly is driving these things, and that the gut is really important to moderating that. And the key thing to understand is that what is moderating that, what is the interface, is this thing called the gut microbiome or gut microbiota. And what that is a collection of bacteria, viruses, fungi that live in our large bowel. There we have more bacterial DNA in our body than we do have human DNA. And actually the weight of our gut bacteria is the same as our brain. Like there really is a vast amount. And we are only beginning to just start to understand. It is like a whole cosmos, like a whole galaxy in there that we're beginning to understand. And this sort of community of bacteria and viruses and fungi are the interface that are regulating these things. They're regulating our mood, they're regulating our appetite, regulating inflammation, our fertility, our hormones, our skin, like they're really involved. And so it has been a sort of spectacular explosion of research that have come on the scene over the last decade as we understand that the gut is so much more than just digestion. And so a huge amount of research is now available about, well, how do we nurture that? How do we nurture a community of bacteria that does a great job for us because they are struggling? And as a result of the fact that they are struggling and they're losing their diversity and that rich sense of community, we are seeing all of these diseases related to that. So it's exciting to start thinking, well, how do we work with our biology? How do we work with our design? And we're not going to mention it here. So we actually have a gut course on our website by Dr. Lucy Williamson. She really unpacks the role of food and sleep and movement, and she touches on stress too, if you want to unpack that. But I think what's really critical, and this is where it really fits with breath, and this is what David and I have been so excited about, is that when you start to look at how the bowel is innervated, and one of the circumstances under which the gut microbiome really thrives and does a great job for us is when it's in that rest and digest zone. So in our nervous system, we have our flight and flight zone, our stress zone, and we have our rest and digest. Now, stress is a beautiful thing. It does an amazing job. It gets the job done. But it's a cycle, and it always needs to be closed. And predominantly, we should be more in this rest and digest, because it's in this rest and digest side that it enhances the function of the gut. It nurtures our gut microbiome. It also helps us digest, which all these things we're going to go to in a moment. And the key thing that kind of that holds that nervous system together is this thing called the vagus nerve, which we're going to talk about, and how breath actually is a really potent intervention for helping pulling us into that rest and digest place, so that our body can do all those amazing things that is utterly brilliant at doing.
Yeah, no, thank you, Sally. It's there's one thing that Catherine always says that rings in my ears when I think of this, because I'd not really thought about it this way before, in that we have these two arms to the nervous system, and I'll explain a bit about how the breath can very simply, you can, and people you'll will do a few little pieces that you'll feel this relaxation response, the rest digest response that the breath can trigger. But she describes it as like, there's so many gazillion things that the body's got to do. It can't do them all at the same time. And like the obvious one being like, you can't run away from a tiger whilst you're trying to digest a Big Mac. And I'm using two extremes here, but like, and it makes sense. It's like quite like of course, like you're going to shut down those things so you can go and do this thing. And I think one of the pieces that keeps coming up in any of the rooted events that we've been doing over the last couple of years is just this better understanding of what stress is, and meeting so many people that don't realize actually our base level of stress is much higher than we realize, and that is playing havoc, or maybe too strong a word, but it is for some, it's causing issues with our health. But the good news being the breath, I'm going to give some very simple things to do, just help to, one thing it does is it just helps to bring that base level of stress down.
I think it's a really, really important point that you've made there, and sometimes I think we use the word stress as in a detrimental way, and we have this idea that stress is overwhelm. There's an emotion to it, our heart's going and we're hyper alert. But, from both of our works, we measure something called heart rate variability. I do it with a live heart math by a feedback thing in clinic, and which gives you an accurate idea of whether you're in the stress zone or the rest and digest zone. And it is amazing, especially I think it's probably more in men, I would like to say, where they're like, oh, I'm never stressed. No, I'm totally fine. I don't feel anything. And then you wire them up and they're like in the red zone. And it's because they don't feel it. And I totally agree. I am totally convinced after 25 years, like if we could just eat real food and get into a rested state, we would utterly transform the health of our nation. Like being in this continuous stressful zone is so detrimental to health, because it can't do all those other wonderful things of nurturing our immunity and balancing our mood and our fertility and all of those things when it's constantly in this stressed zone. So it's so critical. And a good question to ask of like, what does stress feel like, and am I stressed, and maybe even getting some tech to have a look to see, if you're in that stressed zone, which we can talk about if people are interested in.
Yeah, well, we're going to take a deep dive in a little bit into the vagus nerve. We're going to stimulate it, and we're going to feel the response that gets. I'm just going to give us a couple of starting point tools that you can try and play with your, or experience practice with your breathing. Everything's really simple. I wanted to say that the marker that we took at the beginning, super simple, wasn't it? Count your breathing. That's just one dynamic. The speed at which you're breathing is one dynamic of your breath, and we can make it more complicated, but sometimes we really don't need to. And as a bit of a guide for you, and it should hopefully should make sense to you, your breathing and your heart rate are linked. And we know this if you think of like exercise. When you start exercising, what happens? Your heart rate goes up and your breathing rate goes up. Now, depending on how fast you were breathing earlier, when you just were sat down, relaxed, doing nothing, some of you are potentially the rates that you're breathing at, 16, 18, 20 breaths per minute. What if we drop that down to 8 breaths per minute, 10 breaths per minute, if we cut that in half? When I'm running, I'm breathing at 16, 18, 20 breaths per minute when I'm running like a 20-minute 5K, sorry, 25-minute 5K, a 50-minute 10K. This is something that happens all the time. We're being inefficient with our breathing because we're stressed. We're not realizing it, and it's causing the nervous system to be up here without realizing. And it's like we're running, but we're just sat down. And it's not as Sally said, it's not a I'm stressed in my head, but it's what's your physiology, what's your nervous system saying. Okay. How that relates then into sort of into the gut health and digestion and all that's involved. As Sally said, it starts in the mouth, and one of the biggest things we're going to leave lots of time for at the end is really down regulating the nervous system. But I wanted to give you a couple of simple tools you can use and think about just to start with. Okay, so we can think in like times to practice things. It can be really useful to have like a bit of a trigger. And if I eat 3 times a day, there's 3 times a day where I want my nervous system to be in a place to be able to digest food well. And there's 3 reminders for me. And I've got before the meal, during the meal, and after the meal. And if very simply, if I spend a little bit of time, and maybe it's 10 seconds, but if you spend a little bit of time consciously closing your mouth and breathing through your nose, just to calm, and I'll give you some more detail, but if that's all you do, just to calm with your breathing, nasal breathing is going to calm your nervous system more so than mouth breathing before you eat your meals and during you eat your meals and after you eat your meals. Some of us that really need that are going to get some real big benefits from that. Okay, so that's like, well, that's simple. It's like, yeah, that is we can start that simple. Okay, but I'm going to give you a couple of other bits to think about. Before thinking about before, during, and afterwards. So beforehand, I want to try and actually get mindful, get present, but calm the nervous system, but to a point where I start to build up saliva in the mouth, ideally. You'll all experience this when I do the longer practice with you towards the end. But I'll just explain why it works and how it's going to work. So Sally mentioned 2 arms to this nervous system. There's the sympathetic, like the fight or flight, the parasympathetic, the rest digest. Okay. And every breath you take, and I can't say that without singing it, every breath you take, your heartbeat changes. When you inhale, your heart rate speeds up, like ever so slightly. And when you exhale, your heartbeat slows down ever so slightly. So the breathing, the inhales and the exhales are linked together. You know, it's not to say that an inhale is stressful and exhale is relaxing, like we could oversimplify it like that. But it's to say this balance of the nervous system is what's important. And then we start to we do other sessions where we talk about stress, and Catherine does a lot of work on that and understanding what stress really is. And it's not all that bad. It's like understanding it. But anyway, if I want to get into a rest digest state, and I will know if I'm in that state because I'll feel saliva in my mouth, accumulating, dribbling down my face when I get good at it. Yeah. I can very simply bias the exhalation in my breathing cycle for a few minutes or 30 seconds or whatever it needs to be. What that means is I slow down my exhalation. By slowing down my exhalation, I am releasing a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, which slows down your heart rate and creates this relaxation response, the shift towards more parasympathetic activity, or increases parasympathetic activity via the vagus nerve, which we'll come back to and talk again. Okay, so that's one. Like, breathe through my nose and start to extend my exhale to feel some saliva building up in the mouth. That saliva in your mouth, as Sally says, the start of the digestion. Then during, in order for me to stay calm, I want to, I personally want to scoff my food down, because I've probably got some psychological issues around being one of 4 kids, and we all used to nick each other's food and we're at the table, and that's for my therapist to explain to me. But rushing my food is not good for my digestion. Now, one thing that can make me rush my food is when I'm eating, if I want to breathe through my mouth, I can't breathe through my mouth and eat at the same time. So you might fall into this category where people eat really fast and then they swallow and then they then take a breath, because they're actually eating fast because they're not breathing through their nose calmly. And one of the things that can create that is the nose feeling blocked and stuffy. And I've got a little trick for you to try. So if you just now breathe in strongly through your nose, so it's a bit more, you get an awareness of like, how blocked does it feel? So I sort of breathe strongly and check one nostril and check the other. I like seeing people on the video doing that. Right, okay. And then there's a gas in your nose called nitric oxide that is also, it must be linked with the gut microbiome, because it's antifungal, antibacterial, anti-everything, and does a great protection job for your airways. It helps with oxygen delivery. You increase nitric oxide, one by humming, which we'll do later. But one thing you can do is you can trap it in your nose. And as well as all those other things I just said, it's also a vasodilator, which is just the fancy science word for it. Like, it helps the blood vessels open up. Yeah, you have erectile tissue in your nose. Sally said anus, I just said erectile. We're naughty. When your nose feels blocked, it's not necessarily because it's just full of mucus and full. You might have a buildup of mucus, which that's a separate conversation. But often we need this vasodilating effect from the nitric oxide. So you can experience this, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to take a normal breath in, a normal breath out. We're going to pinch the nose. And you can either sway your head side to side, provide a bit of movement, or nod the head like 10 times. Okay, so normal breath in, normal breath out, pinch the nose, hold my breath, and I'm just going to nod 10 times. 4, 5, or I can go side to side. 9, 10. Let go, and importantly, breathe in. Breathe the nitric oxide that you trapped in your nose, breathe it in. And you might, the way I can notice, our heating broke. So we haven't got any heating on at the moment, and it's Baltic in North Wales at the moment. So the air is quite cold. When I breathe in, I can really feel that cold air more so now than before. You can test one nostril compared to the other. Give me a thumbs up if you've got your thing on, or use the chat box. Anyone's nose feel a little bit clearer after just that one tiny little thing that we did? Yeah. If you feel like it needed a bit more work, then you can, if 10 felt really easy, you can do 15 or 20. Yeah. Oh yeah, much better. So we only did like 10 head nods once. You could do it 2 or 3 times, and it really clears the nose. So if you now think your nose is clearer and it's easier to breathe in and use it, are you going to breathe a bit calmer? Is that going to be calming for your nervous system? Yes. Okay. And then the other thing I want you to do is you're going to put the tongue to the roof of the mouth. This is a really important one. You're going to create a little suction, like seal your tongue to the roof of the mouth. Now, I'm going to do it because we always do it, but it's a bit weird. So I'm going to show you like the tongue sucked to the roof of the mouth. Not hard sucked, but sucked to the roof of the mouth. So I can do that, okay? You can check that you've sealed it by, if you pinch your nose and do that. So I've sucked it, pinch my nose, and try and breathe in through your mouth. I can't, Jacko, I'm going to die. No, you realise when it's sealed, it means that you can't breathe through your mouth. It actually puts the tongue in the correct position. It helps to stabilise your upper airway. And it's where the tongue's supposed to be. It's supposed to sit at the top of the mouth. Okay, and it also therefore like automatically encourages that nasal breathing. Yeah, so tongue to the roof of the mouth and breathing in through that clearer nose. That, if you put your tongue to the roof of the mouth now, a little bit of suction, but close the mouth, breathe, think about breathing into your face rather than up your nose. So nice, another one little cue. Try and draw air, because the air doesn't go up. In your nose, the air is going back to your throat and down. Try and follow the airflow when you breathe in now. Try and follow it towards the back of your throat. And try and make it super gentle. And just notice how soft and gentle, actually, with those couple of little things that I've given you that are super easy, how sort of gentle and soft your breathing potentially feels. Calmer. Calmer breathing, calmer nervous system. Okay. And then the last little one, I'm just going to show you a little video, little animation. Present. So this is our rib cage. These are our lungs. This thing is our diaphragm, that big parachute-shaped thing. And I want you to pay interest into what's going on down here. That's an inhale, that's an exhale. I'll play it again. So as the expansion, that's an inhale, then coming back together, that's an exhale. And what we're seeing is the diaphragm moves down and flattens out, the rib cage expands, and actually it gives a nice massage to our internal organs below, which is our stomach, our digestive organs. And so if we think post eating, I'd focus on a little bit of diaphragmatic breathing. I'm starting to just gently massage the stomach and the intestines to just help with that post meal. And what you're then doing is you're tying together 3 little things, pre, during, post. You're potentially eating 3 times a day. So you're just doing some work on your breathing with something you'd normally do anyway, which is going to enhance and hopefully improve digestion as well. But it's giving you a chance to focus on your breathing and help to downregulate that nervous system. Okay, so I'm going to I'm going to guide us through something towards the end after we've just spoken a bit more about the vagus nerve. And there is, we can't cover absolutely everything in this one session. Like I've got some other videos and things on people that if you struggle with really accessing your diaphragm and the mechanics of those breathing, we've got videos and things to help with that as well.
Can I just say, just while we're talking about digestion, I think one of my big passions is that we would work with our genetic design and we would understand how over millennia we have lived with nature and we have evolved slowly with it. And I think the thing is with digestion, even 100 years ago or 50 years ago, there would have been an element of anticipation because there would have been food preparation and things like the smell and you're hungry and you're preparing a meal and you're handling the food, and all of that is helping your digestive enzymes to switch on in your mouth and lower down. We understand actually that the light and our circadian rhythms impacts our digestion and our digestive enzymes. So actually having our larger meals when it's in the daytime. And then, when I go to the city like London, everybody is eating on the go. And it's like, actually, eating is about pausing. It is about chewing. It is about taking time. Yeah. And then I think the really critical thing is that once we've eaten, that is when the show begins with digestion, because it's actually those couple of hours afterwards where we need to be more more than anything else in that rest and digest zone. It's a rest and digest. And I think one of the critical things that is really driving our problems with IBS and our tummy pain and our bloating and our problems with our bowels is that we live in a modern society that does not give us permission to rest after we have eaten. And really kind of that Mediterranean approach to life where, you know, the shops are closed in the afternoon, people eat together, they go and rest, and, you know, they have a snooze. Like, that is the way that we are created. And when we don't respect that, you know, we are fighting against our very genetic design. And this isn't, it's hard because we are choosing to live life at this modern pace. Yeah. We cannot expect our body to do any different. Yeah. And it's just insanity to keep pushing it and trying to get more productive and not respect, you know, these simple things of pausing, of breathing, of chewing, of taking our time, of sitting. And then, you know, the climax of digestion is that time afterwards. It's not. It's
you
not
just say climax.
The climax. We're getting through a whole host of words.
But Sally, it's making me think. Not that everyone does, and I will also succumb to this. Eating our meal. What do? Like, we might go on his phone, and the phone holds potential doorways to stress, but one very simple one that you can't get away with a phone, even if it's a reasonably sized one like this, it's still very small. It's a very small field of vision. It's fake light, and that narrow field of vision is more sympathetic promoting when we're trying to be in a parasympathetic state. Not to mention that, you know, your work emails that stress you out are on there as well, potentially. And I think that there's even shown some studies that, like, even if you put it down, but you can still see it in your peripheral vision, it's still messing with you. So it's like little things that we can try and do. Have that break, use your breathing to help you, but then the things that potentially are the distractions and get in your way, like, and I need to be better at this, like, can we put that actually out of sight, like in another room, on airplane mode, as an example. It might not be, you might not have that relation, you might have a fine relationship with your phone, maybe you don't have a phone, but then maybe there's something else. And it's just encourage you to think about what those things are that let you actually truly rest. And that, Sally, is a message for me.
Yes.
There must be someone else listening that needs.
Crack on! Look, we've gone on. We've already done 4.
Because you were blabbering on.
Oh, sorry.
Right, we are on to the vagus nerve, and you're going to tee us up about it, and then I am going to get us all to feel it, quite literally. Now, this is my gag. This isn't Sally's slide, this is my slide. Vagus. Partly because I'm dyslexic, partly because I like rubbish gags, but it's not the Las Vegas. It's a slightly different Vegas, isn't it? The Las Vegas nerve is when you've like got your last $10 and you've put it on Red 7.
Yeah, it's not spelled like that either. I don't want to break it to you, but anyway.
Vegas nerve. Anyway, Sally, go for it.
Yes. So the vagus nerve is one of our it's a huge nerve that runs from our brain, and it comes from the word vagabond, actually, and it's the wanderer, and it wanders all over the place, and it comes out of our brain, and it's involved in innervating our voice box and our heart and our lungs and part of our esophagus, and it's our diaphragm, and then it goes on to being involved in innervating our digestion, as well as this response around our stress response, and so it's more prominent in that, active in that rest and digest zone. But in terms of the gut brain connection, it has just been mind-blowing us, the understanding in the academic world about the role of the vagus nerve, and there's more communication going from our tummy via the vagus nerve to our brain than our brain to our tummy. It really does beg the question, which actually is the first brain, this one or this one? What is in control? And as I said, it's like the gut is on the outside of us, and it's collecting all this information, and it's feeding it to the brain, and it does that via the vagus nerve with all these amazing little little chemicals that manipulate mood and appetite and all sorts of things that are going on. And so it is really, really critical for gut function, for rest and digest, and all those amazing other things that I was talking about, our immunity, our reproductive health, our inflammation. Like, so it is so critical. And this is this interface between breath work, you know, and when we're thinking about gut and stress and health, that if we can learn to free up our vagus nerve to be able to do what it's brilliant at, you know, we can optimize, you know, our gut health.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a number of ways we can stimulate the vagus nerve. I did a 2-day Vagus Mojo with Dr. Perry Nicholson course last year. And interestingly, I don't want to overcomplicate, but he was like, don't do every single exercise I show you to do over the next 2 days, because too much stimulation, you're going to be smoked. And what did I do? I obviously did everything he said, and I literally woke up after the first day. I felt like I'd been in a car crash. But that's not to put anyone off. Some soft innervation of the vagus nerve. There's things like getting your bare feet on the natural earth. Some people have come across like the cold water work. We've got a cold water event coming up actually in November. Cold water stimulates the vagus nerve. There's a number of things that stimulate the vagus nerve. We're going to use the breath because it's one that ticks a number of boxes at once. So slowing down your exhalations, I've already mentioned that. That's one thing we're going to do. Humming innervates the vagus nerve, because when we hum, where Sally says the wandering nerve, as it comes through the voice box, the vibrations from humming actually physically innervate the vagus nerve. When we breathe low down with our diaphragm, because the vagus nerve runs directly through the diaphragm, that also innervates the bottom portion of it. Carbon dioxide that gently builds up when we slow our breathing down, that also innervates the vagus nerve. Carbon dioxide is not a bad gas that we just have to constantly get rid of. Actually, if we get rid of too much of it, that makes us more stressed and more prone to anxiety. So we're going to slow our breathing down. I'm going to guide you through. I'll eventually ask you to start making some humming noises on your exhalations. And we're going to be innervating the vagus nerve from up here, down there with the diaphragm, with the slower breathing, and with the gentle CO2. So we're just ticking boxes for the vagus nerve. And hopefully you might notice some saliva building up in the mouth. We'll reassess your breathing before Sally finishes us off. And hopefully you'll notice a difference in how calm you feel, and your breathing will reflect that. Yeah? Does that sound all right, Sally? Look, this is like, behave. Okay. So the other one, laughing, is you can't be, when you're laughing, you can't be in a state of sympathetic dominance. So laughing is also good. So Sally, you're definitely resting, digesting right now. So nothing special that you have to do. If you'd like to close your eyes, sometimes it can help you focus on a little bit more internally, and your breathing is happening internally, but you don't have to close your eyes. I just want you to sit nice and relaxed. I want you to put the tongue to the roof of the mouth. Close the lips softly. So the lips are just gently together. Teeth not touching, that's important. Jaw and face and cheeks nice and relaxed. And then I want you to think about breathing into the face through the nose rather than breathing up your nose. And I want you to listen to your breathing. And I want you to feel the airflow. Try and follow the air as it comes in. Follow it backwards towards your throat. And I want you to notice the sound that your breath is making. And just softly and subtly choose to make it a little bit quieter. And as you choose to make it a little bit quieter, notice that the airflow becomes softer. And as it becomes quieter, it becomes naturally slower. I want you to just make sure that your neck and your shoulders are relaxed. So maybe give those like a little bit of a wiggle. Remember that airflow coming into the face rather than up the nose. Because when we breathe up the nose, we tend to lift the chest. Whereas when you breathe into the face, it's more of a lower diaphragmatic breath. And just see, don't force any of this, but just see if you can make it quieter and softer still. Maybe to the point where it's even silent on the way in. Or at least as quiet that if I was sat next to you, even though we'd both be very excited, I wouldn't be able to hear you breathing. And just notice that the airflow in the nose, some soft movement low down from your diaphragm are linked together in what's bringing the air in quietly, softly, and gently. And then what we're going to start to do is we'll introduce a hum for the exhalation, but it's important, I want you to stay relaxed, jaws relaxed, teeth not touching, tongues at the roof of the mouth. Don't force any of this, but keep the inhale relaxed, soft, and silent or quiet. But then on your next exhale, just a very soft, lips still together, very soft hum out the nose. And just notice how when you naturally hum on the exhale, it makes that exhale just ever so slightly longer. Soft, quiet, gentle breath in, and in your own time, feel the vibrations in your voice box. That's innervating your vagus nerve. Soft, gentle, quiet breath in. Without putting any effort in, your exhale starting to become longer, very naturally. For some of us, there'll even be a pause that the body just offers you at the end of that hum. Just enjoy that if it's there, but don't force any of this. Soft, gentle, quiet breath in. Hum on the way out. Stay with that. Maybe notice how relaxed your body feels. Notice the saliva in your mouth, potentially. If you haven't done yet, have a little swallow. And notice, does it feel like there's more saliva in the mouth? Okay. And yeah, just give us a little bit of use the chat box to, did you notice any more saliva in the mouth? Do you feel more relaxed? Use the chat box to give me a little bit of feedback on that. And then I will just time 30 seconds on my, so yes and yes, Leanne, yes, Amanda, yes, good. Very relaxed, but didn't get any more saliva. So the saliva sometimes can take a bit of, depending on where your starting point is at, it might just be need a little bit longer practice, and with a little bit of practice, like anything, we get better at it. I could probably take 2 or 3 breaths now and I could make myself to start to dribble. So it's something that over time will carry on improving if you work on it. Right, so everyone's feeling good. So yeah.
There are a lot of medications as well that dry up the saliva. So if you're fighting against that, it can be problematic.
Good point.
Pick yourself up if you're not feeling it.
This is why we have the doctor in the house. Okay, so then now I know your breathing is probably going to feel more gentle, which is great because you've just changed the auto a little bit. You won't have changed the auto forever, but you've created a little bit of space now. Just listen. Listen listen to your breathing and just count it again for 30 seconds without now controlling it, and just see how much it's potentially changed. Is that right? Yeah, so we're back to reassess. So in 3, 2, 1, go. So in and out is 1. Put the hands back where they were for the, so you, just like we did at the beginning. So you can notice, do you feel different? Is the size of the breath potentially maybe smaller or softer? Maybe the bottom hand is moving more now rather than the top hand. And stop. Okay, so double that number again, and then just use the chat box for me to put both of them in. So like, I started at 16 and now I'm whatever it is. So put the two numbers together to show me the difference. Yeah. Nice. And as we sort of expect and always see, because breathing works in functional nervous system, everyone's is going down, and you're going to feel more relaxed now rather than stressed because you're breathing at a much calmer state and way. It might be also that you notice that the breath was smaller, it was softer, it was lighter, as well as being slower. And it was easy, right? It wasn't hard. You all did it. And, okay, you listened to me, but I barely said anything. You can do that. You can all do that for yourself. Great to do before bed as well. If anyone feels sleepy right now, great one to help you with sleep. Sally.
No. I'll do my last bit.
Yeah. Karen has said, totally relaxed, unbelievable. It's not unbelievable. It's cool though, right?
Yeah. Cool. Brilliant. I wanted to end, just one of the things that have fascinated me over the last few years has been the idea of gut instinct. So I think what we're starting to realize is that there is the place of intuition, and intuition is that kind of more right brain. It's around wisdom, sometimes not acquired through knowledge, maybe place of spirit, place of soul. And I really believe that actually, this idea of that gut feeling is that this wisdom comes to us and it changes our physiology and our biology. It has to, because it manifests in thoughts, in feelings, in ideas, in pictures. And that has to go through our biology. And I'm really convinced that it is through the interface of the gut. And the more I spend time with people who are practicing, breath work and looking at sort of more meditative practices and getting in tune with that internal voice, the more, it's using that vagus nerve again. And the more I think that we can get to a still place of hearing, that place of intuition, that authentic internal voice. And so I feel like the gut, yes, digestion, immunity, all these wonderful things, but it's also that sacred place of hearing our spirit, our hearing, that inner voice within that gives us that incredible wisdom, that place of intuition. And certainly I know both you and I, through breath work, have found and been on our own journey of actually what we've started to notice is being more in touch to our intuitive self, that spirit side of our lives. So I just thought we would do a small meditation together. Now, meditation, don't let it freak you out. It comes from a Greek word which means to pay attention. It's the same word that medicine comes from when we practice medicine. I'm not coming with any religious ideology. It is a practice, a breathwork practice, and breath can be really helpful. And all we're going to be doing is just paying attention to that gut instinct, to that sense, and just seeing if it's got something to say to us as we close our time together. So I'll just, again, it will be, 60 seconds, no, maybe more than that, a couple of minutes that we'll do that together for you to experience that. You might call it prayer, meditation, paying attention, whatever's comfortable for you. I want to use a language that helps you in doing that. So let's do that together, and then we will end with any questions that you want to ask us before wrapping up. So in terms of paying attention, the way I do this, we're in a great place because David's already led us. But say we hadn't had David leading us just then, the way I do it is initially I just get comfortable and I pay attention to what's around me. So my eyes are open, and to get into the present, I'm just like noticing the temperature, noticing the lights, noticing the sound. So just looking around and just, looking around the room and noticing what is around and your present circumstances. And the next thing I pay attention to is just paying attention to the body. Like, the body is the key. It is such a beautiful, genius gift to us that wants to work with us and for us. And so I take a moment just to respect and honor it. And, so just where you are, you might want to close your eyes. And just for a moment, just scanning our body, noticing our head. Is there tension there? Do we just need to let go of the tension in our jaw? Paying attention to our shoulders, and again, if there's tension or pain, just releasing that. Paying attention to down our arms and our brilliant hands and the gift that they are, and just noticing them. Noticing our chest and our upper back that house our heart and house our lungs. Paying attention to our gut, all the brilliant work that it does for us, noticing it. Down our legs and to our feet, and feeling the ground under our feet and the chair that supports us. And once I've sort of tapped into my body, then I follow that breath, not changing it, but just observing it without judgment. And it takes us deeper into that internal space, the beautiful landscape of the internal world of our hearts. And I just notice the breath. And if thoughts arise, I don't judge them, just let them be. If your mind wanders, I just count the breath, and the numbers help me stay focused. And then if you're comfortable, you might want to put a hand on your gut or your heart. And you might want to remember the utter, utter brilliance of your biology, the utter beauty and the gift of life. And in this moment of paying attention and observing the gut, that gut instinct, I would ask you to ask yourself a question. What is it you need right now? In this season of your life? This evening? Time for bed, a hug, phoning that friend. A decision about something you face that you know. Just allowing some space to hear the wisdom that your body holds. And meet yourself with no judgment, just with compassion and curiosity. And you might want to come back to this afterwards, but you could stay here as long as you want, just allowing the quietness of your heart to speak. Just paying attention and noticing. And then we come back to the breath again. What a wonderful gift. And noticing our body, wiggling our fingers, our toes, opening our eyes, and being grateful to you, David, to you all for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
But yes, how wonderful that vagus nerve is to lead us to. Wonderful gut instinct. Anybody, any questions they want to ask us about anything or?
Yeah, any questions at all that you've got, put them into the chat box now, or you can put your hand up if you want to speak.
Just while people are putting the questions in, if you want to just talk about stuff, how people can connect to us if they want.
Yes, so we've got there's a couple of things coming up. We've got if you're in the UK, I mentioned about we've done breathwork, as I've obviously mentioned about cold being good for the vagus nerve. We even have a sound bath for some more vibrations in there, and a lot of time in nature. The beautiful farm club. This will be, I think, the 5th or 6th time we've ran an event up there. So we're back there in Cheshire at the farm club, 26th of November. There are still places available for that. We'll send you links to these things afterwards, but you can find these on the rootedlife.co.uk website. We have a where's my thing going again? Also, the Rooted Life membership. I know a couple of you joining are already members. If you're a member, we do monthly calls with all of the experts. There's some online seminars and exclusive events, and you get 20% discount off any of the courses or any of the events if you wanted to come to that. And again, my thing isn't working. Why is it doing that? Sorry. There is a offer for the annual membership. So it's normally £199 per year, but with code GutBreath as a thank you from us for joining this, it's discounted to just £99. And so you can we'll send you the details for that, but you can make a note there for you if you want to and keen to jump in. We'll put we'll send to you later this week the replay of this session and those links and those details. We also have, for those that are I know people are joining from all around the world. For those that are joining on Zoom and online is very accessible to you. Mention Catherine, who's breathwork coach with us and physiologist. She is running a online 4-week course starting on the 16th of November, which is around breathwork for stress and resilience. So taking a small group of just 6 people through a 4-week online course. Will be 1 session a week for 4 weeks, and we'll send out the details for that for any that are interested with the email that will come out to you.
Brilliant.
Questions.
There is a question here. I can answer it. Amy's asked about using probiotic supplements after taking antibiotics, suffering with bloating. I think, Amy, where we're at the moment, I used to recommend probiotics after antibiotics. I don't at the moment. There is some research shows that it doesn't help. And so what I would do, it'd be really focused around what you're eating over the next 6 weeks after having antibiotics. It's very, very simple in terms of what we should be eating to nurturing our gut. We need to avoid all ultra-processed food. So if you don't understand the name of it on the back of the packet in the ingredients, or it's got more than 10 ingredients, avoid it. Have a plant slant. So that doesn't mean you can't eat dairy and meat, but to have a plant slant to your diet, eating a lot of different colours, and having some fermented foods, as long as you don't have a problem with histamine. So, and that would be things like kefir or kimchi, or you can make your own, little and often through the daytime. I think that is the best approach to helping your gut repopulate after antibiotics, which do, antibiotics save lives without a doubt, but they do have an impact on our gut. Most medications impact our gut microbiome. So I would very much do that instead of taking a probiotic at the moment. Yes, I've had one that doesn't want to mention their name.
Amanda Alexander said, I recommend, so you come to the cold water event in Cheshire. So I recommend the event. So if you're in the UK, you've had a private one.
I have had a private one.
Is that one to deal with privately or just?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's not, it sounds like it sounds like you need to probably find a functional medical doctor so to work with you on that. I think that's what I would recommend. So Julia Davis, who works in Kenilworth, has a great clinic, and so does Sarah Davis in Manchester. So there might be two people that you look up. So Julia Davis in Kenilworth particularly is very good with gut health, and often when I did my clinic, if I got stuck, she is who I would turn to. She's very experienced. So yes, wonderful. Pedro's got a question for you. Can you share a little bit on nose de-stuffing?
The unblocking. So and saying that one nostril always feels more blocked. It's very normal for one nostril to be more blocked than the other, and it changes apparently on 90-minute cycles or thereabouts, but it cycles throughout the day. So don't get too sort of worried about if one is feeling more blocked than the other. But what we can say is that simple little drill that we did, you can gradually build up your tolerance to holding for a little bit longer. Don't make it stressful at all, and don't do any breath holding if you've got any like heart conditions or anything like that. But rather than doing 10 head nods, doing 15 and doing 20 if it feels fine, and doing a few sets of them, what we find is that the more you get the clearing of the nose, okay, in time it will get blocked up again if you're not using it. So the nose is like any organ you describe as like a use it or you lose it organ. So the more you keep it clear and then keep using it, the more it's going to stay open. So it really isn't any more complicated than that.
Amazing. And Karen just pointed out that she had dry eye syndrome since the menopause, one of those symptoms that often gets overlooked, and that she finds that relaxed breathing helps her eyes to rehydrate, which totally makes sense.
So from a nervous system perspective, right?
Yeah, so amazing. Yeah. Great, thank you, David. It's been amazing. Thanks everybody for joining us. So many lovely familiar faces and new faces. It's always a joy. I'm amazed that you all show up. It's very so thank you.
Very, very nice comments from you all in the comments as well. So we very much appreciate it. And there was a number of you saying that this was the first time you'd been to one of them. So thank you for joining. First of all, Peter's even managed to find a thumbs up emoji. If anyone can find a fist pump emoji, I'll give you a fist pump. And if anyone's on Instagram, I'm back at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning doing my Instagram lives on a Tuesday. It's been a break whilst I have a holiday, but if anyone's on Instagram, I'm doing a breathing session live tomorrow.
And what's your handle for that? Because we have Rooted Life Instagram, but you're talking about your personal.
So Rooted Life is rootedlife.co.uk. My personal is Jacko.David.Jackson.
That's when you're doing your weekly breath work that they can tune in with, isn't it?
Yes.
On that.
Yeah.
Oh look, you've got a fisty bump from John.
Well done. I wouldn't even know how to do that.
Anyway, go and rest and sleep well and digest well and let your gut do all those other wonderful things.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Come to our events. We love seeing you and hanging out with you. So good. I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks all.
Bye.